We're joining for Theory U Around the World, the series in the new format. And with us is Manish Srivastava, a Theory U practitioner, an SPT practitioner who works at the core faculty of the Presencing Institute all over the world with the UN and many other organizations, and also does a lot of work with Theory U in India. Today, Yael and I, who've established together Hidu in Israel, are gonna have a conversation with you, Manish, about your work. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a great privilege and joy to be present with you. Thanks to Zoom that we can be in the same room in a way in current times, and looking forward to share whatever I can about my work.
So maybe we'll start with what brought you to work with Theory U. How do you get to do this work?
That goes long back, actually. It goes back to, I think, 2005, when the first book, Presence, was written. And I was working with Unilever in India, in Mumbai at that time. And that was coincidentally, or you can say synchronicity, that I was seconded by Unilever on a project which brought together UNICEF, Government of India, three other corporates other than Unilever, and local NGOs. So it was a cross-sectoral partnership project to address the cause of child malnutrition. And that was one of the early Theory U change projects. So that was where Peter Senge, Otto Scharmer, Adam Kahan, these people were involved, while Otto and Peter were giving us coaching through video conference before Zoom and before all these things. While Adam Kahan was with us. And that project was a 3 months long U journey. So that was my first introduction to this work. And ever since it continued. And after that, after 3 years in that project, I took a sabbatical and came to US without knowing that I will land so close to MIT because my wife was posted. I just followed her. And when I reached here that very week, I think the coming Wednesday, I met Otto in the Starbucks. And I had many questions about how this works, because I have worked firsthand on the ground, and there were struggles and there were reflections. So he said, "We're starting a course today evening. Would you like to join?" And that was Global Classroom, which eventually became ULab. So I was just lucky to be present at right moments in the right places. And that's how my journey unfolded.
Oh, that's fascinating. We might hear some more later about this project when we will ask you about much more specifically about your work. But first, we will be happy if you can share in what ways Theory U, in what ways did you find Theory U relevant to specific challenges that India society is facing?
I think that's a big question. And before that, I have to give a disclaimer that India is so big and complex that I think I don't know India. And the other thing, there is a saying in India: whatever is true for India, the opposite is equally true. So because of that kind of complex diversity, it's difficult. But yes, there are patterns, and patterns are which are very global in nature, in a way that we are rapidly driven towards GDP, towards development, and we see the number of people living in this part of the world, population, crowd, climate change, and all the divides that we talk about are very much prevalent and present. And in middle of this, I think there is a longing which I'm seeing in some people to return to our native wisdom of awareness-based practices, to operate with that open mind, open heart, and open will. And that wisdom is very much available in India. Much of these wisdom traditions are coming from this part of the world. And so while there is a part of I see my networks, my friends, a part running out of this to this kind of industrialized development, fast pace. There is a part which is returning into contemplative mindfulness traditions. And so I think this work then becomes very relevant in accessing, and especially in organizations and institutions which have become very, in a way, westernized, if I use the word, or very much in terms of capitalist. And so this kind of awareness-based contemplative traditions are very welcome and helpful.
So let's maybe drill down to some of the examples of the work you've been doing with us in India. I can totally see how it kind of connects West and East in many ways, and how it's relevant in that sense. So can you offer some examples of who have you been working with us on what challenges?
I think it ever since the first project, which was a cross-sectoral partnership project, and I then lived in US and came back, and I have been working across sectors. Mostly my clients have been grassroots nonprofits, social entrepreneurs, government and UN, just like in rest of the world where I do UN SDG labs, and also one amazing community of law and justice, which is called Agami, where lawyers, judges, jailers, journalists all coming together to rethink the future of law and justice system. So there are these various communities, in a way, you can say, whether communities of practice or grassroots communities. And also some of work has been social art, poetry-based work, which is more open, reaching out to masses in a way. That also I have done and has been recognized with a Creative Art Therapy Award. So some of these are different spaces which I have entered into while responding to the emergent challenge. And I think there is something to Yael's question, which is about what makes this work relevant. Or I think one thing I've realized, and maybe I'm bringing this a little early, but one thing I've realized that as I was thinking on your question, Daniele, that why communities, and there is a difference rhythm with working with communities and people in general and working with institutions, particularly government or a business. And I think one of the thing is that in India particularly, what has worked for me is to go beyond frameworks to essence. Many of the people I work with know very little about theory U. Like grassroots women, they don't speak English, and U comes very late in the alphabet anyways. So on a lighter note. So what I mean is that they understand the work to the depth. They do the practices, right? They have actually these grassroots women entrepreneurs, they have taken it to the level that I recently visited a village, and this 500 village they have scaled and Indianized it, and really discovered themselves in it. So there is that happens, but because then I try to connect with the essence of the work. So the essence is what gets articulated more than the framework, and practice is more present than the theory. So these are some of the things like practices of social art, deep listening, social presencing theater. I can talk a little more about that if you wish. But these practices of seeing and sensing the whole system together. So practices immediately click, wherever people are, they click. And the essence of that, this is awareness-based, contemplation-based, mindfulness-based, which is very Indian, right? Which people, I don't need to do any convincing here. The moment I say we will take a moment to connect with our own being before we step out in the world, eyes are closed in the room, mostly, right? Which in other parts of the world, I have to, my other colleagues who are there with me, they start giving why it is important, why is not needed at most, especially with the communities, right? It's understood. Likewise, the collective wisdom of the collective, that ecosystem awareness, although we are distant, we are very into the egocentric world, but ecosystem awareness is very much in the being. And I just need to connect to that tradition of Aham Brahmasmi, which is the base of our Vedic wisdom, which means I am the universe. And the moment I connect with that, then Aham Brahmasmi, it somewhere lands. Even cognitively, I may be in a different world, that my organization is better than yours and competition and all that. But, or my community or my religion, all kind of conflicts live here. But Aham Brahmasmi somewhere brings me, first of all, into, so I embody that. I sit with that and operate from there. And then you see, though we may return back to our conflicts, because that's how human mind is hardwired now into, but at least there is a memory of, there's ancient memory. I have to activate that ancient memory in our tradition, that we are one at some deep level, just like Ubuntu, right? So that's art. Again, another essence. Art is social art, is the essence of, I think, my being and my work. So the more I'm becoming comfortable with the artist in me, the more I feel my clients in India, communities in India, and it speaks, particularly women. They start with singing, right? In a circle, grassroots women, they start with singing. They spend so much time in what they wear, the colors, the designs. So there is such deep appreciation. And the moment I sit with them, "Oh, that's a beautiful sari," and I'm present to that, that which is so much vanity can open into spirituality in ways that we don't know. So I think my own being more present is allowing, and collective well-being is also at the heart, like which like Ubuntu, it's here it is called Vasudev Kutumbakam. Whole world is my village. So these references and these memories and these, so I try to access theory U or awareness-based systems change through these very deeply embedded traditions, and that kind of allows me to be humble, because in the beginning I was not. I came from MIT with theory U, and I wanted to do the first U lab at the grassroots villages, and I failed. So this is how it started.
Say more about what was the this first attempt coming with it, and the sense that it was a failure. Can you give us a bit more of insight to what went wrong there?
And that may go to the story of the grassroots village women, because when I came here, Peter Senge introduced me to a wonderful woman who is no more. We lost her during COVID. Her name is Prema Gopalan. So Prema Gopalan was founder of SSP, Swam Shikshan Prayog, a network of 75,000 women organic farmers in villages. And she said, you do some of this work. So I came with, the ULab was just launched 2015 or something like that. And just before that, I thought I started many hubs in India, in corporates and other places. So before even knowing what it is, I was just excited. So I went to this village, Latur, and in the town, the village, they came from many villages in the town. They came in tractors with beautiful saris and their children. And I'm here ready. And there was one man, I was there, another man who was managing the technology, and my slides and everything was ready, 3D sculpting stuff, all these practices that we do in theory, all was ready. And they come and they're all sitting on floor. They're not comfortable sitting on plastic chairs. So they sat on floor, and I was standing and talking about how this happens. And there was silence, right? So after some time, I tried, now language barrier, as you realized, our concepts don't translate into the local language, right? So and there were sometimes too many constructs. I was trying to relate, trying to speak. At some stage, that other man left for something, and I was the only man in the room. And here are women with extraordinary beauty and challenges, and I'm standing here trying to give some. And I started feeling empty inside, and I cried, and I said, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't know. Uh, so I said that in Hindi, and I sat down with them, and then one of them said, "What do you want to tell us?" So I said, we're talking about this systems change and how we come together. He says, yeah, we understand that. We have been doing that. So tell me more. And then they tell me their story. And there is a story of how grassroots women actually, without having any formal power or not even having land ownership, transformed the whole village. Their agriculture pattern from sugarcane, which is water consumption, to crops, organic crops, which are less water consumption, to the level that the water table came up. And this is the region of India which is known for farmer suicides. Because of extreme poverty and drought, farmers commit suicide. Their record is every village these women are working in, the farmer suicide rate came to 0. On records, on research. Water table came up, the village transformed. So there somebody made a small movie on them. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, how do you do that? So now my role changes. Now I'm sitting in the center. Somebody has a picture of that. I'm like, what happened? And then they start telling. I said, no, tell me more. And then there is a local woman who's an artist and I said, can you capture this? A graphic artist also comes up. And we develop a 7 steps to women-led transformation. You could almost plot it on the U, right? So I said, I didn't teach you. I discovered the U, the grassroots U, which women had. And then Prema walked in and she said, I wanted you to struggle. She knew that I will struggle. She didn't correct me then. She said, because you needed to learn. And what you need to learn is there is a different feminine approach to these processes. For example, nature solo, when we say at the bottom of the U, we say take a moment in solitude, which is helpful. But also sometimes grassroots women talk, they go together. You don't go to bushes alone, right? So they talk, they tell stories, they cry together. So that may be the way of presencing, being present to the collective being, than just searching, what is this asking from me? But they answer, what is this asking from us, right? So then I started developing. I said, so then my task was that Prema said, in 6 months, I want you to develop 20 facilitators of this work. I said, the work has not worked. So she said, no, then you need to discover what is the work that works beneath this work. So I said, okay. So then I'm there every month I was there. And we would, they identified 20 leaders, and very interestingly, a mix of facilitators and leaders. That was also an insight I had working with them, that to take the work further, you need facilitators who know the processes and leaders who know convening, and they may not be same. So we work in teams. And what was the workshop? It was designing, because I would ask them, so how do you start a change, like co-initiating? How do you start? What happened in the beginning? And they say, we did this, we met, we sing songs. Then I kind of write those processes. They tell me. Then I tell them, maybe have you thought about sitting in circle? Yeah, we do that. So whatever is there, I capture, and then I share something and they adapt. So the end was always a new design, always a new design. And a few years later, when I actually brought some corporates from Germany to learn from women on systems change, and we went to the village, I saw that, as I told you, that the village classroom was full of these things. I said, oh, and there were sculptures of cow dung and stones and leaves. So I said, are you doing the same work that we started? Yeah, we have been doing. 500 villages are doing, 500 facilitators almost, and they're still doing. They said that is our way of, every time there is a problem, we come together, we put it on the center, we sculpt it. Then they translated those forces we do in 3D sculpting, like we see it from different directions. They called it different goddesses. So the Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, what would she say? Then they have these crowns, right? The Durga, the warrior goddess, what would she say? Lover goddess, what would she say? So all the 4 energies, they have transformed in a feminine model of that. So that's one story of how I learned so much from them in surrendering. And I learned humility, I learned surrendering, which is actually essence of Theory U anyways, which is about surrendering to the field, letting go and letting die. So I had to actually let die my own identity for the work to emerge. Now it doesn't belong to me at all. Actually, I can't even understand sometimes what are they really doing because it has gone in so many ways.
Oh, this is so much fascinating, very much. I'm actually curious to hear, I guess that I'm not sure about it. This is like, I'm curious to know in which ways working with these women was, I guess it was different in some ways than working with judges, for example. So I'm very curious to know more about the story of the work with the judges, so we can like get another sense of a different work with different population.
Yeah, just a minute before we move to the judges, if I can have two more fillers on the work with the village. One, maybe even quickly, what happened in the encounter with a corporate coming from Germany to meet these villages? What happened there? And if you can say in few words, what do you feel the women gained from this work? So 500 villages, a lot of the wisdom is already there. What do you feel they've gained with the encounter with Theory U?
I think I think I don't know if it is encounter with Theory U in which ways, but I think what they gained is that there was a seeing and sensing, there was being received fully. When I learned to receive fully, I think in a way I had to learn it, but I think there was this, they stepped into their own power. They were able to articulate very clearly what our work is, right? And there was no external validation per se. Like I was not saying that this is your work, this is the work researched by people at MIT too. No, they didn't care that actually. They didn't need that. Their own inner validation that this is the way we work and this is the way we can organize. So I was guided by the meta frame in a way, right? And they could step into that and articulate that more fully. So that was one. Some of the practices which became very central to their work, of course, they adapted it beautifully, just like the 3D sculpting as collaborative problem solving. They say that any challenge that occurs, we sculpt it, then we stand on 4 directions, we solve it, whatever be the challenge. They're doing it more beautifully and gracefully and expansively than anybody else I've come across in the Theory U community. I'm being honest, and humbly honest, right? So that's what I've seen. So some of these practices became very central, and they also found that their own practices, which also the non-profits who were working with them, the kind of organizations who were supporting, they started seeing there is tremendous value in what they do, like singing and drawing and stuff like that is of tremendous value, which is the co-initiation, which is the co-presencing. So some of these processes. So I think, and they eventually, based on this, because it kind of, because of my joy, this is the curriculum. And they were like, okay, so they dreamed of a grassroots village university. Then we took this work and the journey continued. We took it to Delhi, where in Delhi, they presented it to ministers and their dream. And they got funding and they started a fellowship. And of course, the journey continues even now. The fellowship is going on. Prema is no more. The organization is running. Once in a while, I'm invited to do something. And when I do that, they say, yeah, we are also doing that. So there's a bit of like meeting your colleagues. It's like, oh, we have notes exchange. It's a very different shift. It's not like, it's like, okay, so I'm learning from them. So there is a bit of that. So I think they kind of organize their work. So if I use the Theory U or the awareness-based system change framework, they got a new language to trust their own wisdom, to operate at 3.0, 4.0. And they almost this clarity and confidence with which they are now building kind of 3.0, 4.0 ecosystem with this fellowship, what's called Unnati Fellowship, which is Progress Fellowship, where they're honoring women who are already doing this kind of work. And then they kind of ask those women to mentor another 10 women who were participants or applicants to the fellowship. And so that fellowship framework and other frameworks have started. I didn't answer your question, what happened, maybe, yeah, but I can if you want. What happened to the Germans? It was quite transformative for them. It was mind-blowing for me because I was a translator. It was, as a translator, it was mind-blowing for me. It was a paradigm shift.
What happened there? Maybe share it in a few words. I think it'll be interesting to
just learn. I will zoom into one conversation. guys I mean, I was working with a German automobile company, and they on e-mobility, but the company already had orders booked for 5 years, which means with piston engines. So they were saying that how do we, when you're successful, how do you change, right? Except that the CEO was having a heart open and saying that I cannot be known as a CEO who produced more pollution by my grandchildren. So he wanted to change, but the system is not. So they said, how do we change this system bottom up? I said, I don't know, but I'm also parallelly working with grassroots women who know. So you can, so they said, we will learn. So they land and they go by the road and dirt road and in the village, and they were all having stomachs upset and stuff like that, which India always welcomes you with that. System has to break down before it's rebuilt. So they were in that breakdown, and then we said, we'll go to the farms. As an organic farm, it's called 1 acre model. In 1 acre, I don't know how much is acre, one piece of land, these women, they're given to these women, and or they claim it somehow, and then they kind of do the organic farming, and there's a whole network of them. So this particular woman was very successful, and Godavari Tai, and it sits with Godavari Tai, and this team is there, and I'm translating, and I'm just very short conversation. So he says that, okay, so what's your dream? What else you want to do? She says, yeah, 1 acre is very successful. I want to go to 500. And he says, wow, you want to do 500 acres? What a dream. He says, no, not 500. 500 women. I want to go to 500 more women. He says, wow, you want to employ 500 women and make that big organization? So, no. I just want to share my learning with 500 women so they also flourish. And he says, that's no business sense. He looks at me. That's no business sense, because she has a successful model here. She just wants to share it to 500 more. She got it. She didn't need a translation. She got the business sense. And she looks at him, speaks in Marathi and Hindi, and then I translate it. What she says, no, it makes perfect business sense, because I gathered all of this from others. When I distribute to 500 more, the whole village flourishes. All daughters will go to school. And then our economy will flourish, and the quality of my seed will be better. We have better economies of scale to bargain. We don't have the burden of running 500 acre. We sleep well. That's why it makes business sense. And when I translated, he was like, oh my God. And 2 different paradigms. And that's when Prema told me that you have made 3 bridges here. One, West learning from East, man learning from women, capitalist learning from a very generative 4.0 kind of organizing. So that was quite transformative. And for me also to know, wow, there is another way of looking at world, which I am not used to.
Wow, he's so inspiring. Wow.
I think we should go now to the question about the work with the judges and the justice and law in India that you mentioned earlier, and Yael was asking about. It will be fascinating to hear. I mean, think about theory, you and judges, kind of, what was the goal? What did you try to do there? How did it work?
That work is also, it's going on for now 7 years actually, and this work is happening because of this network called Agami. Agami is a network of law and justice system, and they're amazing people. I think they're very based in Bangalore. They understand generative social change. They understand it in their own being, and their intention has been, how do we bring community of stakeholders across law and justice system who want to transform the system to generate collective well-being. In other words, just society. What does just society look like? What is a society where everyone is a justice maker? So they have the questions already placed at 4.0 in a way, for a system which is so well established in 2.0, like advocacy, judge, fact-based reality. And it's not easy for us to say. It's not easy. It's very complex, very difficult. The whole system is very big. This is like island of coherence, but it is having an impact over a period of time, and quite amazing impact. We have every year we run a cohort, invite people, curate people from various fields. We started with mostly law and justice, but lawyers and judges, but it has expanded to bringing police, administrators, journalists, and tech change makers, especially tech and law. For example, alternate dispute resolution and those kind of innovations. Those people we are bringing in, and it's a kind of a year-long journey, which start at least 2 or 3 touch points, and we have now a cohort has gone beyond 100. And it ends in a summit where 300, 400 people, judges, artists. We have started bringing more artists in the summit, and it's quite amazing. I was I bring a lot of social. It's totally based on social presencing theater, and for benefit of our listeners, social presencing theater is one of the core methodologies of Theory U, which is kind of embodied you, where we tune in with the wisdom of our bodies. Personal body, social body, and the earth body, and the activities help us to work with that awareness of my own body, social body, and earth body, to then collectively see and sense the system and its brokenness. And using contemplative theater, when we embody those shapes and roles of how the system is stuck, it brings awareness which is quite deep and transformative. So this whole work is based on that. And initially it was not easy. Even I think this project took years to start, I think. But I'm grateful to another person. Unfortunately, I lost her also during the COVID. Very, very sad about that. Her name is Sonali Ojha, who was a change maker, who was a Ashoka Fellow, and knew this work. Otto Arvana know her well. She knew this work very well, and she was my bridge. She had the sense of authority in all these spaces where she could say that, okay, Manish is going to do something which you will not understand in the beginning, but stay with it till the end of the day. And then I would do things, make people jump and roll on the floor. I'm highlighting this because how the work flourishes in the world. You need friends, and Sonali Ojha was that friend for me. You need friends who believe in you, and you need benefactors like Agami. Like I generally have a deal with the such kind of communities. If it fails, you will still love me. You have to say that. You have to say that 3 times before we start the work. They laugh and they say, "No, you have to say it." I need to hear that. So I think there is a bit of that. So this has so now with that beginning, now it is we when we bring people, we don't tell them anything. I learned from them, so we co-create it together. So they convene the group. We tell them that this will be different. We will not share the agenda with you. Come in your relaxed clothes. We will go deeper into ourselves. It's the inner space from where we will operate. And this is a space we need. And they do interviews. I also do interviews. In the interviews, we kind of sense who are at the inflection point. And they, like one of the questions I asked, that, are you hitting against a wall in doing your work? Do you still see a window or a way? If yes, then please take that. Don't come for the workshop. If you don't see, come. So that's already is a readiness for something different. And when they land, they were telling me in their words, in words of Agami, that you disarm people. I said, I don't want to know that. But which is basically, we don't ask them, we just, and this was again Sonali Ojha's insight, vertical dive. We don't ask them a little bit like, tell you about your organization and stuff like that. We just start with journaling question, like one of the questions, which is, who are the people you're grateful for? What keeps you awake at night? And then they talk. They find it weird. No conversation. I'm a judge and I'm a little social worker, and suddenly the judge is saying where I am helpless, and so immediate instant vulnerability. Or once I'm planning in the next workshop next week, I'm planning to push these guys into 3D sculpting straight. I'm doing that experiment because I think we sense that we don't want to, because the more you feed the ego, the more stronger it gets. And our job is ego to eco. So why not start with eco? Just start there. Let's see what happens. So that is how this work begins. But over a period of time, there is a big shift in the whole. I think the core is, which I'm planning to write a paper with Agami, is that how social art that we use and awareness-based system change, how that creates deep communities. Because when we do embodiment and we are non-verbal and making shapes of our experiences and we see each other, the stories are dropped, right? So stories are dropped, and there we see humanity in such an essential way. And we have done 4D maps, which is one of our tools of using our bodies to map very painful things like prisons, right? There was 72 people in a room, and the map was on well-being in prison and lack of well-being in prison. And one of the head of 8 prisons, police officer, he went to embody the prison guard, and he makes a shape something like this, right? And it was a little bit of an enacting while we say embodiment, but he still made a shape like this. And in some time, looking at the prison, his body shivers, and he drops and walks out. And Arvana has taught us that whatever happens, you accept. Right? There is no right or wrong. There's no way to do it wrong. So we sit with that. And that makes it visible to people. The pain of the prison guards, everyone hates them, right? And they are the one who suffer the most. And that conversation starts in the room. And I had asked them to bring the whole community. We had released prisoners in the room. We had guards in the room. We had police officers, judges, community, psychologists. We got the whole circle. And then we asked this question, and they were citizens. And we asked this question, do we need prisons? Everyone who works with the prison said no. And everyone who is outside like us, clean people, said yes. And that is a mirror, right? So when he recovered from his struggle, he said, I want this to move in all of my 8 prisons. There was a file on well-being of prison guards which is sitting on the table. It moves, right? It immediately moves because there is a deep experience. So just one example I'm giving out of the many maps we have done on different topics. Some of them very heartbreaking, because I think this is a beautiful community. I've started loving lawyers and judges because they're working where what is law but an agreement how to live together, right? Whether it is an international law or a local law. And when that struggles, when that fails, and judges are paying attention, the beautiful artist judges, right? There's a judge who is a poet, we have done things together. When he was asked to present a particular case, he sent a poem that this man is so poor, he has already won. His poverty has won, and my judgment has failed. That was his last line. His poverty has won, my judgment has failed. And he released them. So there are people. So I think the thing is, in any system, there are people who have beautiful heart and who are struggling also sometimes and doing some amazing work. And Agami is trying to bring them together. And then my work is to help them deepen their relationships, give them a language. Every Friday, they do 20-minute dance. Can you imagine? They gather and do a 20-minute dance. Not all of them, whoever can come online. So there is a way, but there's a long way. But this model I'm questioning, we all are questioning that, 1 by 100, how long will we travel this path? So now we are talking about, can we scale it in some different way? Can we go to the youth? Can we make it a part of curriculum? Can we really, and now I said go to the women because, it didn't require, I was not in the way. Even the theory was not in the way. They got the essence. Essence was delivered there and they scaled. So where are the communities? Can we work with the communities directly rather than working with leaders? So communities come into the journey and communities take the essence. Essence is awareness-based systems change. So can they take the essence in their own way? And that wisdom is already there in the communities, I feel.
Yeah. I would like to ask just a small question about this case, and then we'll go maybe for our last question. You mentioned that it was challenging. In the beginning, it was very challenging. And it is, in our context, it is completely not conventional work to do with these people in these roles. And you already said that some of what helped you was, the trust that you got from your colleagues and stuff. But I'm very curious to know a little bit more about how did you build or gain the trust of the group in order they to be willing to go with you to such a non-conventional work?
It's a great question. I also don't know, actually. Sometimes I feel I'm stupid. I jump before thinking. And because I'm going to start with a totally new group. It's not law and justice. It's social entrepreneurs, a new group next week, and I'm having, my stomach is oh my God. So I think that's a good question. I think one is having people who know your work, who know you. That relationship is very, very precious and non-negotiable. I'm learning it more because next week I don't have that, right? And I tried to bring some people. I said, but they were very protective also. No, 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 no. Everyone is protective of their system, which is understandable. So I think that is one. True. Then it works very slowly. I think working where people are. There are also places, I must say, when you're asking me good stories of me, the places have been terrible failure. Terrible failure. And I mean, there is one example in India which is like a trauma, but it keeps me grounded, right? Otherwise too much success is terrible. And then there is one in Ethiopia where there was a lake, and I said I want to jump in this lake, and that became in SPT community we say jump in the lake moment. So we celebrate our jump in the lake moments. So yes, there are moments which are difficult, but I learned that go slow, work with internal consultants, in a way, people who know the system, building relationship with them in advance. Like I have asked this new group to come a day in advance so I can do this work with them, and they get a little comfortable. And then next day they are I want, because if your people who are inviting you, if they are anxious, then it can't work. Their anxiety will be picked by everyone. But to my surprise, people long for awareness-based work. People long for reflective spaces. People long to think new. And if we are vulnerable as space holders and facilitators to, then it's led by example. They also feel like, oh, they can step into it. We can try it out. And I think, yeah, it's difficult.
Maybe the last question. So yeah, I asked you about kind of what led them to give faith and go into the work with you. I want to ask you about kind of the going up the U from there. So you do this 4D map, for instance, with the judges. There's this insight and the prisoner guards and people who are released prisoners, and there's this insight about the well-being of prison guards, right? Where did that lead? Like outside of the room of the 4D mapping, what actually happens afterwards?
This is one of my pain points. This is one of my pain points, Daniel. Great question. Pain points because I mean, both. It's a pain point, and I'm accepting it also. Because I often in our work, because the other side of the U, which is applying and systems change, is not as linear as it appears on the slide, right? Because in especially social systems, you have an insight. There is another organization which has no insight, on which your success depends. So that to me begins another U. Now you have to work with a bigger one to go deeper, and then another, and then another, and it's an ongoing journey, right? But maybe somebody is in the position of power, like this guy present in the room who says, do something about it. And something happens. But often the convening organizations are not designed to take accountability or are asked to go for the implementation. Implementation aspects are sometimes different. So that's where I wish I can be engaged longer with people. And what I try to do is I call them. This particular one, I wanted to really go to the prisons. We had whole plan ready. I said, we'll go to prison. They said, but there is no fund. Forget the fund. Let's go to the prison because I want a story. And COVID happened. This was 2019, a map. This map for December 2019, and 20 happened and all that stopped. But then one part of it picked up, which is children prison. So it requires some movement energy, honestly. We have to be more like people who believe in a movement than facilitators. So children prison, one aspect picked up. So let's prototype in children prison. and 3 nonprofits agreed. So we did one workshop in my city where they came and they mapped and we identified. Then this January, we were in one of the children prisons in Mumbai, to children homes, they're called. And then we worked with that. So my whole, the ideas that I had earlier have been challenged and transformed, because you see that working with these complex systems move slowly. But you can see another way of this happens. One of the fellows of this first 6 years back, I think, or maybe, I don't know, 2018. Yeah, 18, he was there. He is a head of prison in one of the city. His prison he just got the award for the model prison. Now, he was already a guy on that path. He comes across amazing people. He takes his inner journey and he leverages that network and works. And now he's created a model prison, model participative prison, where amazing, powerful stories that he has created. So I think somewhere the systems change. We need to. I'm learning now. The learning part is that accept that it's not easy. It's not as simple as shifting few blocks on a table. It is complex, and one is the aware leader who takes this journey to your work, Yale, and who start developing their own networks. So that is one aspect. They start bringing the change. And second, we want to work like a movement to start supporting those leaders, to create more critical mass of them, to support them in their journey. And it takes time, and some of it will go beyond our lifetime. I mean, that is also a humble accepting. I mean, a part of my body is still rebelling to even accept that, but that's a reality. So we keep doing the work. And yesterday, one of my artist friend, I was calling him, I was very frustrated and nothing is moving. And he was saying, just focus on input. Just focus on input. I think, thank you.
I think we'll end with that. Manish, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure Yael did too, and I hope our audience will appreciate that as well. So thank you very much for this.